Okay. All right. So we're live on the air. This is Flux of fluxwithit.com and the producers Hangout. And this is our year-end spectacular blowout extravaganza with myself, Flux, the sound designer, and we've got Mike of padbangers.com as well. Mike, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
What's up, guys? My name is Mike, aka Silent Cypher. I'm from Germany, beat maker, producer, blogger, and whatnot. And yeah, hope you guys had some good holidays and a quiet time. Looking forward for the show.
And next up, we have Gaz Williams of gazwilliams.me and Sonic State and other things. Why don't you introduce yourself a bit?
Yeah, hello. I'm a Welsh musician, producer type, magic mushroom chomper of former years, and yes, very glad to be here. Been recently collaborating with yourself, Flux, and some other guys, which has been good fun. I'm like a bass player, I suppose, but I also produce music. I've done a lot of like mastering, a lot of mixing, and I'm also used as a music technology consultant. So I've worked on various projects in the music technology role as well. And I've worked with some really cool people over the last sort of 10 years and having crazy times. I mean, life is all about adventures, and I've been having this really wacky one. And long may it ride.
Yeah, amen, amen. So, being that it's we're in post Christmas holiday, post Hanukkah holiday, post Festivus for the rest of us holiday, um, I wanted to start off by just seeing how your holidays went, and was there anything from the holiday season sales, or were you gifted, or did you gluttonously buy for yourself anything spectacular, and was it music related? So I'll start with Gaz.
Yes, something I've been meaning to get for a while, but there was like a sale on before Christmas, so it's really nice. I love this justifying Christmas presents to yourself kind of thing. It's you need, with music technology, just the merest excuse is all it takes to justify these things. I mean, when I reason it, sometimes people like look at my equipment. I've got quite a lot of bass guitars, but also lots of effects and different bits of technology, and I'd say, people go, you blah, what do you need all this stuff for, blah blah blah, and do you really need a new thing? You see, but if I was a plumber, if I was like a professional plumber, and suddenly a job came up where I had to go and work, and it's like a big house on a hill, and I thought, oh, I'm going up in the world, so I'm going to have to get an extra spanner with an extra wide kind of, spannery bit. People would be like, okay, cool, that's all right. And then they would see my collection of spanners in the cupboard there, and they would go, yeah, this guy's professional. And no one would give me a hard time about wanting that extra spanner.
Amen. I
But,
get
yeah.
I get so much crap for the same thing, and people, my wife especially, and they come in.
Use the plumber analogy. It gets you out of trouble. That's it.
I absolutely will. Yeah. So what is your new spanner?
well, they were quite small spanners in this case, and the first one is one of these.
Ooh, I'm gonna say bass.
Yep.
Yep, Volca bass.
And the second one was one of these. Oops.
Oh, Volca keys.
And frustratingly, what hasn't arrived yet was the Volca beats, and maybe most interestingly, because it's a brand new one, the Volca sample as well. Hey, Volca beats.
Well, I will tell you, you could just send it to me and I'll modify it for you.
Hey, that sounds cool. But I remember when Nick got them in a long time ago for a Sonic State review, and I was over there to do some stuff, and so I got to play with them a long time ago, and I was a bit nonplussed with them. I could see that they were cool. I could hear that they sounded good as well, but there was a kind of workflow thing. I was really, what was my hang up was that like working on a single bar just seemed, and not being able to chain That was the thing that put me off them. Not being able to chain patterns. You know, that seemed like a really restrictive thing. So I know that the focus is on live playing, but I want to be able to.
You want to be able to chain multiple patterns into a song mode.
Yes. So interestingly, the new Volca sample, because that is the first Volca to be a digital device, gives them a little bit more possibilities, and there is a chain mode in the sample, and crucially, there is a swing mode too. So I'm interested to see if I can send the swing clock out. You know, whether the swing is going to affect the sync out. Are
you planning on using it with other analog gear, using gate clocks and things?
Yes,
have you tried it already, and have you seen any of the chinks in the armor there?
Interesting. Okay, so at the moment I haven't, because these things have literally, I got them I think the day before Christmas Eve, and you know, to justify playing with them when there was so much other things to do, because we had the whole family, everyone. You know, our house was the.
You have to pretend to pay attention to other people.
It was everyone. They've all left now. Today, I said goodbye to my mum, and she was the last one of the family. So yeah, got the house back, and so now I've been having a little bit more time. But to answer your question, I'm very interested into integrating it with just a few pieces of kit, and that is. I want to mount them all into. I think I'm gonna get a guitar pedal board case, and I'm gonna mount them onto that, so I can take it with me. It's gonna be really important that I can take it with me. And to that end, I want to essentially put them together as though it's a bit like a modular.
Sure.
So I want to get power. It's really frustrating. The power of the Volca is frustrating.
It's not. Yeah. It should take pedal power. But it won't. Yeah,
I didn't know. I just assumed it would. That was one thing I didn't really know.
You and I both. So yeah, you can make an adapter for it, because it takes the voltage that you could use from power. It's the adapter, the tip, that doesn't work. So you can make your own tip and then have it work with like a hotspot or whatever. But
yeah, what I was going to
say,
they
did that, I don't know.
Yeah, it seems strange. It does seem strange. However, I guess maybe because of the analog nature of them, that they needed AC rather than DC, and you know, I don't really know about those things. But,
well, no, it is DC.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. It says it right on it.
Yeah,
I'll show you right here.
Yeah. Okay, egg
as
on my
DC.
Face. Egg.
What it is, it's
a
center positive DC, and it's a slightly odd shaped.
That's the problem.
Hole.
Sorry, that's the problem. It's the hole, isn't it? Because I've got these little what they called, when you got daisy chain of adapters.
Yeah, that's what I have.
And they don't go in there, and it's like I've seen there's some guy in America doing it now though. So
there's an adapter that you can get too, and you could if you. I think it's like Radio Shack or somebody. You can get an adapter, and then you can cut off a daisy chain piece and then wire it on there. But again, you know, you want to be careful because you're dealing with electricity. But
but that's the idea I would like to do. You see, is have
I'll tell you what has me the most irritated. Like I actually really love the Volca beats. And the snare. I don't care what Korg says, because I don't know if you're familiar with the issue that happened with Korg, but so someone, you know, of course, when we get these things, and Korg has been extremely nice to us as music nerds that like to dig into our gear by providing schematics, and not only providing schematics, but also labeling the circuit boards, so you can actually very easily figure out what's going on inside of there. And then it was discovered that.
Can I just jump in there? I just want to say what you're saying there about Korg. It's quite interesting because it's almost the opposite to the way that Roland do things. Roland is still very, very tightly in the corporate control.
It's a shame. It's a shame because I mean, well, I'll dive down that path in a second.
Sure.
It was discovered that on the board there is a blank spot for a capacitor in the snare circuit, right? And it's fairly common to see blank spots on circuit boards that are even labeled, but this particular blank spot someone decided to put a generic 104 capacitor across it to see what would happen. And the snare on the Volca Beats sounds like a wet fart. Like it sounds like a burnt speaker. It doesn't sound quite right. It sounds like something's wrong with it. You put a capacitor across there, and it clears it up and gives it a lot more punch, and it sounds correct. So Korg was contacted about this, and Korg said, no, this is how we intended it to be, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people feel that that's BS and that you know, they're just kind of covering their own butt because they don't want to recall it. Whatever the fact may be, maybe it's true that they really did intend it and it wasn't a mess up at the factory. But the fact remains, if you put a capacitor across that spot on the board, it greatly improves the sound of the snare. And it's very, very easy to do the modification. If you have a thin point soldering iron and, you know, a capacitor, and you can put it right on there. They are SMD components, so they're very small. I actually soldered on a non-SMD, like a through-hole capacitor, because I didn't have any SMD ones, and it works. It works fine.
Wow.
But the other issue is that the syncing with clock, it does indeed skip steps. It does not hold a steady clock when you're clocking it from analog gear.
Okay,
I've seen lots of different things on forums about people finding workarounds or trying to get it to work. The number one thing I will tell you is do not ever plug in a mono patch cable. Okay, so if you're using your modular, do not plug in a patch cable like this. You need a patch cable like this. So you need this patch cable with, you know, the stereo.
Two rings.
Why they did this on a mono machine, I have no idea. But if you plug in a non-stereo patch cable, it will short circuit.
Can I just finish the Flux Guy? Because the way I'm going to set mine, I'd be interested to find out if you think this is. Well, I'd love to just explain what my plan is and to see what you think, because I'm not intending to interface it with anything else except just the 4 Volcas. So the clock between the 4 should be pretty good, I think, if you're only working with the 4. Now, one of the criticisms of the Beats was no swing facility on there, but the new Volca sample does have swing. So if the Volca sample sits at the beginning of the chain and sends its clock downstream, will that swing control affect the clock out?
It should, and I'll tell you that I have used things like triangle wave oscillators to kind of like make it act funky, and sending it sample and hold and things like that to get the clock to kind of move around, and that does work. Like it will make it go kind of wacky. So
cool.
I don't perform so much with it. I'm more sound design with them, but you can get some really wacky rhythms out of them.
Yeah, well, the thing for me is this is all going to be about performance, and I will be doing it some live performances.
You will be a brave man.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like the fact that it's going to be. I'm going to start. I want it to be chaos. I want it to go wrong. I don't want to be going. I'm not making dance music here, so
yeah,
I'm not going to have a dance floor full of really angry people.
So, anything else?
Yes. So I've got the microbrute that I would like to integrate with it. That's the only one thing that. This is what I'm hoping to do. I'm hoping to be able to have. Oh, and the OP1 as well, the Teenage Engineering OP1, which is special edition. Nice.
Yep.
Hey, looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah. They look very nice and white.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen it, but quick plug on my website, fluxwithit.com, I show how to modify both the mini brute and micro brute to have more outputs and inputs on them. So.
Wow.
Yeah, I've added, this one doesn't have it, but I have another micro brute, and that one has, I added individual oscillator outputs.
But I might not, in my case, use the micro brute. I haven't decided yet. Basically, though, it is going to be the 4 Volcas and the OP1. Now, what I'm intending to do is just do, I've got one of those little, have I got it with me? Yeah! This is such a great little tip if you're using Volcas. One of these headphones.
Oh, yes.
You know that trick, yeah. So
Yeah,
all
yeah,
the
those things are great, and you can get them off of like eBay or whatever for dirt cheap too. Like not that's a name brand one, but you can
yeah.
get them off of eBay for like $1 a pop.
I know. I just realised that after I bought this one for 10 quid, which is probably what nearly get over $20. But the problem with this was a Belkin one. The actual cable out is fixed, and
Ah,
and really, you're gonna want to be wanting to plug into there.
hey, at least
So
it's stereo.
it is stereo, and that's what's quite nice. So as a product which is designed, it's being used in reverse, isn't it? I mean, it's designed,
Yep.
for teenagers to all want to kind of plug in and listen to
It's a
whatever
passive,
garbage they're listening to. Come on,
passive
youngsters!
multiplier.
Yeah. Uh, so from a kind of a high fidelity point of view, we're going to be losing a little bit of impedance, I guess, through it. But so my idea. Oh, so that's just like a posh version. Did you make that?
Yep, your mic is just turned off. Okay.
Ouch.
Am I still here?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. So, yeah, I just went and picked up a bunch of jacks, wired them together with some switches, and made my own. And I can also switch format to 1/4 inch.
Oh, that's great.
So
That's cool. But in my case, I'm going to make this like it's almost going to be just a bit bigger than a briefcase, like a guitar pedal board. If you imagine the 4 Volcas all next to each other, and that's one thing that's nice about the Volcas, to be fair, I think, is the fact that all the sockets come out. You're not, you can put them together side to side any way you want, and you've not got any consideration of things sticking out the sides. I like that. So you can imagine 4 of them together.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
And then in front of that would be the OP1. In fact, as I think about it, the micro brute is going to be I don't know, it would be an option. If I explain this and see what you think. So the output of all the Volcas go into this, and then the output of that goes into the input of the OP1, because the OP1 is a little line input on the side.
Oh, nice.
And then the output of the OP1 that's what goes to front of house or whatever you're plugging into. In my case, I'm going to plug a Bristol company here now. When I'm doing small things, I use these speakers that are called mini rigs, and I've talked about these on Sonic State before, but I think you can get them all over the world now. So I think it's worth pointing them out.
Can you chain them together so that they're stereo?
Yeah, you can chain them together in stereo.
Because I use a Bluetooth SoundLink Mini, and it sounds fantastic, but you can't make them stereo, I don't think.
Yeah, but I got to be honest, I've got one of those, and it's really it's a cool speaker. What's nice about these is these are more like it's a PA company in Bristol that makes them. So it's made out of metal. I mean, this is made it's like a piece of professional gear. It feels like it doesn't feel like consumer gear. They've got a rechargeable battery that can give up to like 50 hours of life, so it's just like, we're not talking 8 hours or 10 hours, but like 50 hours.
Wow.
And you can this is the big one, you can get a sub-bass unit.
And all 3 can work in conjunction?
Yeah. So you plug into the sub-bass, and the sub-bass acts as a little bit like a controller out to, at the moment, I've only just got it's a 1.1 rig. I've only got the mono rig at the moment. I'm going to get another one of these at some point.
I think I need that.
The thing about them, which sounds good, sorry to plug it now, but because I live in Bristol, by the way, and these are made in Bristol, and it's quite interesting because so much stuff is made in the Far East, and for companies to start off and manufacture in like locally, it's really impressive because, I mean, these things are expensive in some respects and cheap in other ways. So it's about £95 in Britain, so probably about $150, maybe a little. I'm not sure. I don't know internationally what they'll sell for, but that is a solid block. It really is. I mean, that would survive it would survive a war. It would survive a war. You got to have your music during the war, man.
Yeah, that sounds great. Hey, Mike, did you manage to procure anything during the holiday season under the guise of cheer?
What did you say? Sorry.
Did you manage to get any gifts this year?
No, but my family loves me very much, and so I got a little money and some gift cards. That and that money probably goes straight into New Year.
Woohoo!
I don't know what I will get next, but definitely it will be a controller for Ableton Live, and I'm still looking for the controller that matches my workflow best at the moment. And I gotta say that microbrewed in white looks damn sexy.
Yeah, it is. It is. I haven't modified it, and that's partly why. Just because it's so clean, and it comes with a gig bag when you get the SE version. Like it's just very like right now the original one is actually sitting in the gig bag, and even though I modified it to have more functionality, I actually after I modified the micro brute and mini brute, the micro brute used to be the front of my modular. And now that this is modified to where I added LFO outputs on the mini brute, now the mini brute is my it's back to the front because it's so much more powerful now that it has LFO output. It makes it so easy to sync my modular to the computer and back and forth. It's just great.
Wow, so that's your gateway then from your modular to your computer.
Yeah, so I have the mini brute is USB tied into the computer, which the main thing that I use on my computer is I use a Machine Studio. Um, just because I really like working hands-on. I really hate using a mouse when I'm in the studio at all. If I can avoid using a mouse, I will. So I run, you know, the USB will make the arpeggiator and the LFO clock to tempo, and then I use that LFO clocking to tempo out, you know, to sequence everything, to keep everything in time. Be it going to like this modular over here is all my control voltage sequencers, and then this one over here is like all my sound sources, and that's kind of I just keep it all locked tight like that if I so choose to keep it in time, which a lot of the times I like to have it just go off and do its own thing. For this year's Christmas, I actually kind of specifically didn't ask for anything music related because I got a lot of things beforehand that were music related. It's I like spending money on music gear. I like getting music gear that I personally choose and like, and I'm so particular about those things. So I kind of tend to not ask for gifts in the music genre because the likelihood of people knowing what the hell I'm talking about is very minuscule. And on top of that, you know, by the time I get it, I can be like, oh well, I probably could have gotten it for a cheaper price, or like I'm so particular about those things. So instead, it's like I want things like things that help me do other things. So I got a Dremel set so that I can drill do-it-yourself boxes.
Nice.
So like when I'm building synthesizer circuits, I need
Precision.
things to sand things down and drill holes and things. So I got Dremel sets. I got awesome Batman robe. I got Batman pajamas complete with cape and all. Like I was quite happy about that. And I got a new baby, so that was kind of
the
all.
best.
Yeah,
The best
so
present
my
you could
son
ever
was
have.
born just a week before Christmas.
Woohoo!
So Ollie. So I'm very happy about that. But I also wanted to talk during the show quickly about just like some of the best things that we've seen all year. Some of the things that maybe surprised you, maybe some things that just kind of stood out to you and maybe, you know, stick in your mind. So first thing that I'm going to say that really stood out to me was the fact that, you know, I really expected to see poly analogs like coming to the forefront this year, but I didn't really expect to see the analog rhythm. I was a little taken by surprise on how deep that thing is and everything, and I'm saving up to get one now. I need that. But you know, things like the Sub 37 and the
smoking hot.
Yeah. Like I have this sub fatty and I love it, and I've mapped out the Arturia beat step to do everything that the sub 37 has hidden behind, or has on the panel. So I have all those controls here, but I still want the 37. Like I think that's the most fantastic layout.
I got to be honest, having played on one for a bit now, the sub 37, it just taps into the desirability circuit full on. They're absolutely sub fatty. Fantastic.
Well, Mike got one, and so Mike has his sub 37, and it took him forever.
Okay.
It was pushed and pushed and pushed on back order for Germany.
Yeah,
so,
long time. Mike,
but he finally got it.
Yay.
So what was your biggest surprise, or what made you the happiest this year in music technology, Mike?
The happiest, definitely the sub 37. But another thing that really surprised me and is just pure joy is my Wall-off Strike Fed. I just love this thing. I really, maybe you can see it. It's sitting right there next to the keyboard here. It's just, this thing it's so simple, but it's not analog. It's all digital, but it has so much power. And it's just pure joy when I plug it in and play with it. Then of course the sub 37 is just great, and also it's just the bass that coming from this thing. It's just a beast. I don't find other words for it. Every time I got somebody here in the studio and I start playing with the sub 37, everybody's like, "Whoa, man, this thing sounds so huge," and I have to agree with them. And another thing this year that I had it for reviewing and I still miss it every day is the console one from Softube. This thing was just amazing.
I've just done the Sonic State review for that, actually, Mike, for the console one. So
what do you think?
Well, you carry on first. I have opinions.
I had it about 2 weeks or 3 weeks for reviewing, and while I was using it, I thought it's really cool. But when I had to send it back, and then I started missing it because it just integrated so well in my workflow, and just an awesome piece of gear. If you do a lot of mixing, and you should really check this thing out. I think it's amazing.
It is the build quality on it is spectacular. It's like, it's simply a controller and software combo. So that the controller itself doesn't do anything other than act as a USB controller, but they've built it to like a kind of high studio spec. You could imagine it sitting there in a very, very, very posh studio, and it wouldn't look out of place at all. It's handmade in Sweden, basically. Is
it metal or is it plastic?
Yeah, it's metal.
The chassis is metal, and the front plate is kind of really, really high quality plastic. But really, really good quality.
Oh, good quality, and it's a very tasteful thing. I think in some respects it might be just a slightly bit too tasteful. I think the LEDs are very dim, and at times the angle I was working at.
Yeah, that was a con I mentioned also, and I hope they can fix it with a firmware upgrade.
Yeah, there's no way of adjusting the brightness of those LEDs, and the angle, because I had it at a certain angle where it was kind of suitable in my studio, and it would have been great because of the rake of it. I found that I had to be dead above it, looking straight down at it, for the LEDs to really kind of serve their purpose. But, Softube stuff sounds amazing. There's no denying that. And then the idea that you've got these hands-on controls, and it's pretty much one knob, one function. There's a few exceptions, but pretty much one knob, one function. Is very, very nice. The thing I wasn't so keen on, and I got to be honest, I thought it's a bit of a drag, is you have to insert it onto every single track that you use if you want to use it to its full, because it's not just they don't like calling it a channel strip because it's got all these buttons.
They want it to be a console.
Yeah, that's right. They call it a console one. They say it's a mixer. They say a mixer, not a channel strip. And you kind of go, well, it looks like a channel strip to me. But then there's this row of buttons, about 20 buttons along the top. And what you can do is you can jump to tracks straight away. So you don't need to be going to the computer. But that does rely on knowing that track 17 is your, second backing vocal or whatever it is.
So is there no scribble strip?
No.
It is.
So a scribble strip would be a big improvement on it then, right?
Actually, I think they added the feature for other DAWs later, but I was using it in Studio One, and whatever track I threw the plugin on, it read out the name of the track.
Mike, that's the only software I got that function working on now. I tried it in Logic, I tried it in Cubase, I tried it in Ableton Live, I tried it in Studio One. So it wasn't a comprehensive test by all means, but Studio One was the only one that actually had the auto report of the track name. So what I found...
I think now they added it with an update for other DAWs.
Oh, okay.
I think I got it. I think I read it in a newsletter or something that now other DAWs are supported, but I used it in Studio One and it worked straight away. So that was
it worked beautifully in Studio One. So I'm a Cubase man myself, and so having to now it is a VST3. I thought it was a VST3 protocol that they were using, but what I was going to say. That was the only drag, because for me, I'm having to insert it onto every track, including any sort of auxiliary send tracks or, whatever, every single track, and then naming every single track. So for one project I was doing, I think it might have been for the review, that was 16 tracks or something, or 15 tracks I think it was actually, and just having to manually write in the name of each track, just doing it the once, because to do it thoroughly. I'd like to do it on a session thoroughly. It's weird when you're on a session, just anything like that takes that much extra bit of time to actually have to do.
Yeah, I agree.
It's almost like a deal breaker, and that's crazy when you consider all the other joys and wonders that the actual thing itself brings. But I think ultimately, if you're prepared to go, right, okay, this thing is going to have such an impact on my workflow, then I think it's a brilliant thing, and I wholeheartedly recommend it if you are prepared to put in what it asks of you in order to integrate it properly.
Well, I can say if you're using if you're taking Studio One as a role model how it should work, then because in Studio One it's also when you have it on one channel, all you need to copy it to a new channel is to drag it from the mixer onto the next track. So you just go over with your mouse, drag it over, and you have a copy of it. So that's in Studio One. It's really, really fast, and that's why.
And when you change a track name in Studio One retrospectively, it'll update the track name automatically in Console One. So
what I did is I made a new template, and I named my tracks like all the drum names, like kick, snare, hi-hat, and stuff, contact 1 to 5, and machine. I named all these and saved it as a preset, and every time I load up a new project, it was named just right, so I had no work with it at all.
I work so erratically and in so many different ways. It's almost impossible for me to use, but I do appreciate that is a very, very good way of working. And if I suppose that's a great thing. You can always just delete the tracks you don't need after you've once you've established your workflow. But I think it's a very brave move from
Softtube.
From Softtube, because it's very difficult to bring a physical product into reality. And
I think also though it's one of those things where I see a trend towards it, and I actually like the trend. Not everybody likes the trend of dedicated MIDI controllers, but I actually love it because I am someone who, when it came time for me to switch from using hardware recording, such as tape and digital hard disk recorders, I was very reluctant to make the jump, and I ended up jumping when I got Logic, and I had a Digio 2, and I had a M Audio Project Mix, and I went full on that way because I still had my hands on, and I have other friends of mine who they work with the mouse in their DAW, and primarily without much controls, without flying faders and things of that sort, and that's just not for me. Like, I need hands-on control. Like, I don't think as much in clicking ways. I'd much rather turn an EQ knob as opposed to clicking on a parametric EQ plugin and dragging it like that. I'd much rather do it musically by ear.
Fun as well, Flux. You know, the workflow is so much more fun if you can kind of get all your fingers and digits and, you know, getting your foot up there, you know, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the thing though, is that so we have really, I guess you would say Arturia was first to market with the hybrid controller kind of thing when they first did their what was it? The first analog laboratory.
Analog lab. I got that one.
And then you had, and then Machine took it a step further by doing the whole, you know, the whole shebang right there. Which Machine, I love it, and I still pull my hair out at some of the things that it can't do that I wish it would. But you know, so there's that, and then, you know, things like the Project Mix, which is now outdated, but hopefully, you know, there's other people that make really more high-end versions of who is it? The not the Icon, but the Avid has a really nice touch surface one, and Behringer's coming out with the X Control.
Looks nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and something I would say is that when iPads came out, and for those of you who don't know, I present a show about the iPad alongside Nick Batt. It's about the iPad as a musical device.
Sonic Touch.
Sonic Touch, thank you. Forgot its name then. And it's been an investigation show in a way where we've investigated apps, mainly for the iPad, not just that. We used to get a lot of flack, well, we still do, for not covering Android devices. But
there's a good reason for that, though.
There is a very good reason, and it just hasn't really, you know. But now I think Lima coming out on the Android is I think it's a huge thing, really.
Well, I can tell you that I've done testing on my website as well, where I specifically tested the input-output latency of all the apps across both platforms. And Android, it's not a problem with the app developers. It's a problem with the actual platform. Is a good like 30 milliseconds delay. And it's in music time, that's like a year.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
You know, it's just really difficult.
Is that affecting
the program hi-hats on an Android? Like, show me a program that you can real-time program eighth note hi-hats or 16th note hi-hats and have it actually stay in time in your sequencer, and I'll shut up about it. But until then, I don't want to hear it.
Now, latency in a way is the great kind of, you know, it's like the scissors to your soul latency.
Yes, absolutely.
The scissors to the soul, because it's like cutting that connectivity between your expression and what's coming back, and it's a killer. It's a killer. It kills a vibe. You know, when you play an instrument, like I'm primarily an instrumentalist, you know, and that little bit of latency, it kills it. It kills it. However, you know, you can learn in some cases, I think, to, you know, utilize latency. And have you ever tried Ninjam?
Ninjam, no.
Okay, that's a very cool system. This is years old now, actually. But do you know Reaper, music software Reaper?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Reaper is like the kind of it's like the wacky mad scientist at the very cutting edge of DAW technology, you know, or the things that are embedded in that thing is just off the scale. But I love using it. I use it a lot, but I tend to I don't like editing too much in it. There's other things I don't like doing in it too much. But as a piece of experimental software, it's amazing. But mentioning Reaper, roll me back. What was I going?
We're talking about the latency.
Brain. Latency.
And Android.
Yes, talking about latency, Android. Why did I get onto Reaper? See, I've just derailroaded my brain.
That's okay. Okay. I just have, you know, as far as iPads are concerned for controllers, I was really excited by them, and I use them a little bit, but when it comes to knobs and faders and everything, I found that I am much more of I don't like to look at faders when I move them. So when I'm mixing, I'll tend to mix maybe 3 vocal tracks or drum tracks at once, not looking at them, but I just know where my fingers are placed, and I'm kind of just utilizing it like that and listening, as opposed to, okay, how many dB up and down am I going, and
Yeah.
I'm much more tactile with it, and you can't do that with an iPad. And until
Yeah.
they come out with
Yeah.
a fully tactile iPad, which I don't know how they're going to do it, but they need to do it. I don't care what it takes.
Well, we're going to hear this haptic.
Well, yeah,
everything now.
haptic, but even haptic, it's still not quite it. No, there were some patents that they had filed. I believe Microsoft had some interesting ones too, where they talk about the surface of this new screen will be able to slightly morph and change. So they can make bumps appear on the surface, things like that. Now that might be a step in the right direction. That might be able to get you there.
I think so. I think that's what I was going to summarize with Sonic Touch in a way, is that the iPad apps are incredible, but I think when it comes to mixing, exactly what we've just been saying, really, that is the lack of feedback, and you have, to be honest, Flux, you just kind of stole my thunder. But it's okay, because being the Lord of Thunder, there's plenty more where that came from.
I had a Thor's hammer around here somewhere. Yeah, I mean, that to me is where it needs to go. But I want to see more dedicated USB controllers, and I also want to start seeing USB 3 interfaces, which I haven't been seeing.
Puzzling, that one. I wonder if it's just because at the moment there hasn't been too much reason for that, and that USB 3 has not been quite standard enough, but maybe now it is.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you that being a Retina MacBook Pro owner, I got one right when they came out. Thunderbolt has been probably the biggest disappointment of the year. And the reason isn't because it's not a fantastic technology. The reason is because of the lack of support and the expensive prices of Thunderbolt. Ridiculous. I have one Thunderbolt hub, and it cost me like $150 just to add a few USB 3 ports and just a few things that I needed just for basic storage, and that's disgusting to me. I mean, the fact that they, I understand that there's chips in there, I understand that there's priority.
It's just
technology in there, but come on, I mean.
But FireWire, it was like that.
3 hub, and even USB 3 hubs are still expensive.
It was like that with FireWire, wasn't it? At the beginning, everything FireWire was just such a ridiculous premium.
But it's going on for a long time now. Like, Thunderbolt is not new.
Yeah, that's true.
The honeymoon is over.
Yeah. Come on. Now, let's just have our $60 kind of US Thunderbolt drives, My Mac Pro has kind of got 6 Thunderbolt ports on it, and they're so empty. There's so little.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, so you can get a Mac Pro that is fantastically powerful, but you still have to budget for a good $500 worth of Thunderbolt peripherals to put onto it.
Yeah, I mean, the storage on the Mac Pro is just ridiculous, and the fact there's no internal storage, and and the fact then that really it's expecting you to have your storage on Thunderbolt drives, which will be the way.
I have to say, this was, in my opinion, the biggest marketing fail I've ever heard. It's like when Apple announced, we built the Mac Pro and we slimmed it down for you so you have more space on your desk. But now you have to add at least 2 or 3 external devices that's additionally on your desk. Yeah. And it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if anyone is sticking their new Mac Pros inside of their old Mac Pros. That's the way to go about it, because then you have all your storage and everything right there, so you're good to go.
Did you hear Robbie Bronneman talking on Sonic Talk about his new rig? He's got a fantastic rig. He's got however many the maximum cores you can get in a Mac Pro. He's got a fully spec'd up Mac Pro. Together with, he's got this really cool, I think it's 3-disc RAID array thing.
Oh, really?
And a Apollo, UA Apollo, and it packs into 2 bags. Oh, and this portable screen. This is amazing screen.
He's got that USB screen, right?
No, that didn't work. He did have that. No, it didn't work. It worked on everything except Waves plugins didn't work on it for some reason.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, but there's a driver, because it's a USB monitor, so the actual graphics card is essentially in the monitor. So whatever kind of whatever
You do?
graphic routine, yeah, it's just a bizarre thing. So the Waves plugins, everything else worked. He says he didn't find anything else that did it except like Waves plugins just came as blank boxes, there with no graphics on at all. So, and he uses Waves a lot. So out went the monitor, and in came a new one, which is it's got a HDMI port on, but this. I picked it up. It felt like a sheet of polystyrene. It was so light. So he's got this uber portable rig, but he takes out a huge sample library with him. So that goes on this enormous like RAID array he's got. The Mac Pro, this portable screen, the Apollo, bang, good to go. And he says, that's like full studio, mega studio. So in fairness to the new Mac Pro, it is a very portable device. I have to say, a good tip if you tour a lot, which I do a lot of. I go out on the road for big stretches, and I've always taken laptops with me. But every hotel now, every time I go into a hotel, I always make sure I can, even when I haven't got stuff with me, I always make sure that I can unplug the HDMI from the telly in the hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
If I can do that, it's like I think, okay. In the future, I think I'm only going to take out either a Mac Mini or the Mac Pro itself, not bother with laptops, and just sort of hijack the hotel's kind of TV as a monitor with a HDMI cable. So that's why I'm always checking to make sure. Ooh, I can do this. This is quite nice. Yes. So that's my.
Yeah, I mean. The way that I've been looking at it is, so I actually went and priced out a Mac Pro the other day because I like to, when I'm going to buy a new computer, I try to plan in advance. I'm the portable type, so I don't know about you guys. I know Gaz likes to make music portably, also, a lot, but I'm to the point where I've always kind of kept the mentality, no matter how big my studio gets, I can always take the majority of my studio out of my studio and can create wherever I want. So my main computer, I use Retina MacBook Pro, and basically everything can come with me. I've been heavily debating on doing a Mac Pro. And
there's some very nice bags now
and that's the thing, is that I started looking at it, and the thing that really got me is that I can get these compact monitors that I can kind of take with me now, and if I choose I can do it, So I'll probably be doing that in like June or July, and it'll cost me probably about $5,000.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, in Robbie's case, it's considerably more, but at the same time, he's the first person I know who's actually done that to that extent, with the most kind of cutting-edge portable, mega portable. I mean, we're talking just the one trip from the car portable. I mean, and that's for that kind of power.
So Mike, do you ever produce like on the go? Like, do you do any mobile music production at all, or no?
Not really on the go, but I went with the 2013 iMac, and I have to say I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't get an iMac anymore in the future, because I got the iMac because I was on a PC the whole time, and I just couldn't imagine how powerful it really is. Always when I read the specs of a MacBook, I thought, is this really enough for my production? But now, since I'm on the iMac, I have so much power left. I know a MacBook really would be all I need. So in the future, I would rather go with a MacBook Pro plus a big display when I'm at home that I can just plug in, and because when I go out and visit some people, I would love to have my stuff with them, and all the time when people come over here, they bring their MacBook and their machine, and they just plug in into my audio interface, and they're good to go. I don't want to disassemble the iMac anytime and carry it around. So yeah, that might be a little bit of a mistake, but now I know. So the next computer will definitely be more portable.
I love my Retina MacBook Pro. I love it. Yeah. Like it's been completely flawless for me, working absolutely great. Even though it was very new technology, because that was the first one with that Retina screen and everything. So I just went onto Apple's website and priced out the fully spec'd out Mac Pro, and it would run me $9,599.
I think Robbie's kind of laid out something like that for his, you know.
So,
what I was going to say though about laptops, though, I do think that the age of the laptop is drawing to an end, as we kind of know with tablets and etc. But I think, you know, this idea of a block like a Mac Mini, but with a battery as well. So, you know, you've just got a block, which is all your connectivity. It's got the and a battery, and then everything else are just devices. You know, because like the format of a laptop is a bit awkward, really. You know, it's okay, but it could be better. You know, if you know. It's a bit. I don't like working on a laptop for any extended period of time. I would much prefer to have my keyboard, my Magic Trackpad, have them in the comfortable space rather than having to be bunched together as they are on a laptop. And also, I like to have maybe multiple screens, blah blah blah. So suddenly, then, you know, the actual laptop itself. If you could replace the idea of a laptop with just a few devices, but the hookup was wireless and as painless as possible. I mean, you know, wireless monitors are going to be battery-powered wireless monitors, essentially tablets, but
we have to hope that there's not that much, again, scissors to the soul latency between them. You know, and that's the other thing is like, Arturia is supposed to be announcing their new audio interface, and a lot of hubbub they've been sending about wireless. And
are they going to fall flat on their face with this one? You know, they are really saying huge hyperbole, if I may use that word, on this new product. So Arturia have announced that they're going to be releasing a new audio interface. It's going to be announced at NAMM, I think. It's going
to be announced at NAMM, and all they've said is that it takes, it basically does things that everybody wishes their audio interface could do. That it's going to be a pro-level audio interface, and that it's going to feature wireless in some way. That's what they're saying.
They say it's a game changer.
They say it's a game changer, but doesn't everyone?
But you know, if you say that stuff and it falls short, then it can look a bit embarrassing. You know, you can't.
Well, you know what? To be perfectly frank, their hardware I actually really like. Now, there's been, you know, some people will say different things about their key beds and things. Like the microbrute having you know, iffy build quality, things of that nature. But then again, I say, you know, well, you're talking about an analog synth at a price point that before the microbrute came out or mini brute came out, nothing existed anywhere close to that, like not even remotely. So, you know, I can't fault them at all for that, and they've been pretty forward thinking when it comes to hardware integration. So I can't see that they wouldn't be able to do it. Now, audio quality-wise, I wonder about the preamps, and I wonder about the converters. Even though, let's be honest, there really isn't that many different converter chips out there. So it's like a lot of these converters are more or less the same at the same price points, you know.
And very good as well. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, very good. So
there's been very few audio interfaces that I've had that I specifically didn't like the converters.
That is
very few. I can count them on one hand at this point, you know, of recent ones.
That's the side of technology that's really benefited musicians, almost in the background, I think. You know, the fact that sort of that. I mean, I've been a digital recording musician since the beginning. I really was. I was there at the beginning.
You're old.
I'm old. And, you know, the changes along the way, a lot of these things happen because, you know, it's one of these offshoots of Moore's law where.
Well, yeah.
But just things like this analog to digital, digital to analog, just in its most basic form.
Well, have you seen the new technology that NASA was talking about? That there's a new digital to analog converter that just came out that they're going to be using for like pictures and whatnot, and it completely blows the lid off of anything that's ever been done. I mean, they can basically take pictures of the sky and see everything, you know, for light years and light years, and just teraflops of data inside of this thing. I'm probably using wrong terms. I don't care. But you know, but essentially, this new converter does things at a rate that, like, at a speed that is not even comprehensible to us at this point. So
that's amazing.
And now this is all in data form, of course, but we know that that's going to trickle down to audio eventually.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
So things are only going to get more accurate. Now, I don't know what rate you guys use. I don't know if you guys are ever working higher than 96K or higher than even 44.1.
I've just started trying some experiments in 192 because I got one of those Neil Young Pono things recently.
Yes.
So I just,
yes.
I wanted to explore it. Now that does sound nice. That unit sounds nice. Now you could argue that it sounds nice because the headphone amp on it's really nice. The converters on it are really nice, and those things most certainly are. But also, it's quite an interesting thing. I can now, it's nice because I can make a mix at 192, and then
you can demo it in your car now.
I could just drag and drop it into this thing. Yeah, so it means that now you can extract that into the real world, and try it out and see if there's any benefits. Now, you see, I'm a psychedelic fan. I love the whole psychedelic process. I'm very, very interested in the concept of psychedelia. I think it's the next, I think 21st century will become more psychedelic as we go on, as people realize the immense powers that are contained within us. And I think the psychedelic thing, and we're not necessarily talking about drugs, we're talking about a much bigger thing, is once we unlock our psychedelic, I think we can unlock lots of potential.
Are you going to be putting a Pono into a sensory deprivation tank? Is that what you're telling me?
Good idea. But what I was going to say, I think that music, the infinity of music, why people are analog synth fans is you can feel that infinity, can't you? You can feel it. There's no quantization going on. You're dealing with an infinity of,
It's a lot. Like with living oscillators. It's You can notice the difference. It's not tangible, but it's there.
It ain't Minecraft. I tell you what, when Minecraft gets made out of spheres, blummin' heck, wow, that will enable Minecraft to become psychedelic. And in a way, I think that is the psychedelic thing. Pi, it's all hidden in there, isn't it? Pi is this incalculatable kind of number, and really all it's trying to do is just make a perfect circle. And it's like, there it is. That's the riddle. That's the psychedelic breakthrough. However, this has music technology ramifications. Bring it back. So I think that purity of music, of that waveform, I think something happens outside of the current way that we quantify things.
I totally agree.
The argument against higher sample rates, which is based on, Nyquist, is it the Nyquist theory? Yeah. You can kind of the argument for 44.1K as the ultimate sample rate, it kind of ties in with our sort of the dimension.
I mean, you could kind of dequalify that quite easily by saying, when you deal with, let's talk about lower frequencies. When you deal with sub-bass, you might not be hearing them, but you feel them, right? Mm-hmm. So who's to say that, in higher frequencies also, that you don't feel them as well? It might not be felt in the same way that sub-bass is felt, but it can still attach to your soul in a way. And on top of that, the more important aspect of it that I see, because again, I do a lot of sound design, when I'm using an analog synth and I'm getting the filter just to that point to where it's breaking everything up and everything's going just slightly haywire, the quantization when you're using 44.1 doesn't quite capture it as well as a higher rate. And that's because there's so much moving around so fast inside of that it's not necessarily a higher audible frequency, but it's it's a movement, it's a speed of which things are happening.
Something happens which I think everything becomes less three-dimensional. When I work, I love working at 96. When it goes down from 96 to 44, if I was to sort of define what's different, it feels like it's become flatter. It's lost a little bit of three dimensions, and I think the higher sample rates potentially, and not just higher sample rates. Maybe there's a whole other kind of way of doing things that that we haven't kind of figured out yet. But we're not getting the whole picture. I want to be able to hear music playing back, which is almost like like the thing in the first ever Star Wars where they've got those little hologram fighting characters. I want music to have that same sort of tangible 3D-ness that of an instrument being sort of rendered.
Well, the hard part isn't so much doing that. It's selling that to the consumer and getting it to go mainstream. So
yeah, which that's quite an interesting thing with the Pono, because the Pono has been marketed to kind of music fans and not music technology people. So that's a step. That's a step into, because we've seen this thing of through the 1980s, a real increase in fidelity and in recording technology. There's a great book I'm sure you're aware of, the Behind the Glass, the music producer's book, and it's an interview with lots of different music producers, and the questions. And now this book, I guess, is quite old now, but people say, would you go back to tape? What do you prefer? And all of them, pretty much without fail, this is a book about, I think it's the same interview, more or less, given to 20 different producers. And these are producers who've been working for a long, long time, and they wouldn't go back to tape. There's no way they'd go back to tape. Oh, yeah, sure. If I wanted the effect of tape, yeah, then maybe. But in terms of, workflow and all the other things, there's no way I'm going back to tape. So these producers were very much aware of this increase in fidelity. So there was a real movement of fidelity. And then the consumer decided in the late 90s that convenience was much more attractive than high fidelity sound. And you could okay, well, CD was good. We could lose a little bit of quality. That's all right, because the idea of having just your entire record collection on you was such a radical. I mean, young people forget about these things, but the idea of having music collection with you.
But still, even when this was going on, I fully remember the switch over to when MP3s became mainstream. I fully remember Napster, all that, and I really remember, being younger, and at the time, I was really upset about losing my inserts, my notes, my liner notes. Like, that killed me, because I really, really, like, ever since I was, as long as I can remember, like 7, 8 years old, I can remember reading liner notes, and I used to love reading the thank yous. And I would try to piece together who was who on the thank yous.
We're very similar.
All of that stuff, I loved it all, and that was like, I can remember even more so than the audio quality at the time, because I don't think we fully understood how bad MP3s were at the time.
And I think
So
I was just going to try. I realised I've diverted this kind of point so far, but once people had been sold the idea of having music collection, that was fine. So they kind of went down that route, and the sad thing is that became the norm. So people had lost the ability to hear high quality music. Really, they kind of get used to a way things sound, and that's the way it sounds. And it's so inferior to, and obviously the loudness war is a huge contributor to this as well. It's a combination of the two things. It's the loudness war and data reduced music,
and also the portability, because I think the MP3, and especially now the younger kids, they prefer portability, having all their music in their cell phones. They prefer this than over quality, because I remember when a few years back, kids were just they had the music on their phone, and they're just cranked up their phone so everybody could hear the music. And it's kind of the same like people in the 80s when they had the huge boom boxes on their shoulder, kind of the same effect. But of course, when you're listening through a tiny cell phone speaker, the quality is crap. And that's probably a thing that continued on. So people are used to these small cell phone speakers, and then they didn't care about the quality at home either.
But I mean, the market for like maybe wireless Bluetooth speakers in the last few years has just gone crazy. It's probably, I would imagine, as Christmas presents this year, lots of people will have had a better one. Right. They'll have had one before, and I think
one more thing to carry around with you.
Well, yeah, but I mean, hang on. I've got this new one. I'll
Well,
just
let
go
me
get
let
it.
me just say this really quick because I've actually been struggling with a way to show people because I believe that for the layperson who isn't an audio nerd like us, a way to identify audio, they need to see it visually to understand how bad it is. Just like a crack addict doesn't understand how bad crack is until they get a picture of or you know of this person whose body is all falling apart from what they're doing to themselves. So what I've done is, and I'll be posting it up shortly on my web, but what I've done is I've taken an oscilloscope of yeah, I don't know if you're aware of oscillophone, which uses and again, I'm not French, so I'll mispronounce this, but Lissajous imagery. So basically, you take the X and the Y of the incoming audio, the phase of the audio, run it through an oscilloscope, and you can create patterns that look 3D. And there's a track out there called Oscillophone, all right? And it makes a very cool to watch video basically using an oscilloscope. And if you just play the audio through the XY on your oscilloscope, you'll be able to see this video just by listening to it. So what I did was I took the original high quality wave and FLAC audio of it, right? Took screenshots of that on the oscilloscope. Then I did the same with MP3s at different qualities. And you can see how the image actually degrades. So the first one is a very clear 3D picture of a cube, and as you go into the MP3, the cube becomes fuzzier and fuzzier and fuzzier, and it's because of the lower bit rate of these MP3s. So I'll see if I can find the pictures.
Yeah, great.
But I figure showing these people it visually might help, you know?
Yeah.
Do you think that makes it more tangible for people?
Probably.
To visually see what they're losing?
Probably. They will probably understand. The thing I'm asking myself is, will they start to hear better quality from seeing that picture, or will they say, man, but it sounds okay to me, and keep on continuing listening to bad quality?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing is that I notice as a sound designer working on sounds, I have my oscilloscope right here, and I use it all the time. Like I love using an oscilloscope when I'm shaping sounds because to visually see the sound that you're working on, you can learn a lot from how you see a wave shape moving or contorting in different ways, or how you see saturation.
So, it's a great way to look at just to look at a raw oscillator, isn't it? Just to look at.
Absolutely, and I think that something like that will. When you educate someone as to what's actually happening to a waveform, what a waveform really looks like, and when they become educated, it's like, you know, someone can appreciate art without having ever taken an art class, but when you have someone who has learned how to draw a little bit or has taken an art class to appreciate what's happening in the art, they begin to appreciate it more. You know, in America at least, you know, art is a mandatory course, and I believe it always should be. But you know, certain artists are like standards, like Van Gogh or Matisse. You know, you start to see things like pointillism, and they explain why pointillism is important. You know, and what about it is so interesting. If you didn't teach people about this, they probably wouldn't. They would probably see it and say, "Oh, it's kind of blurry. Oh, I get up closer and I can see this," and wouldn't care quite as much. You know.
That's it. It is about caring, and the knowledge leads to the caring, doesn't it? Yeah. I just went and grabbed this, which is it's worth mentioning because I think it's quite an impressive little thing. It's a Bluetooth speaker, like we've seen lots of recently. It's made by a company called Nude Audio. The connection to music technology with this one is Focusrite, the company Focusrite. The guy who set that up, what's his name? Neil, British guy, Dudridge, is it? Neil Dudridge. It's his son's company, this is. So it's kind of got a link to music that way. And I think possibly, maybe that's why it sounds as good as it does. That it's been tuned in a particular way to give a really nice, clear sound. And I have to say, I've been very, very impressed with it. Listening to mixes that I've worked on in my studio that I know intimately well, and like holding this speaker in front, just holding it in front of me and thinking, do you know, that's pretty close to what I'd expect it to sound like. Like I can do a direct comparison with my Bose SoundLink, and that Bose thing is it's very nice. It's very, very nice, but it's sort of doing some clever flattery, as no doubt.
Absolutely. It's definitely not a flat sound at all.
Yeah, and this is doing something flat. The mini rig I showed earlier, why that's good is that the mini rig has no DSP processing. All the mini rig has is an analog limiter built into it. So that's that makes that a nifty thing for music, for using as a amplifier, a very small amplifier, but it'll fill the room. That's a really hot tip. But that one is quite nice because it gives a real surprisingly high fidelity sound because I've tried loads of these things now over the last few years. I'm really interested in the idea of them, and this one I suppose is the best one that I've experienced thus far. It's not as loud and it's not as big sounding.
Well, I use stuff like that. I use stuff like that in the SoundLink Mini, all going portable, and this is what I tend to do. I'll show you this before we close out. So this is an Ultranova, and the Ultranova is great because it can be powered off a USB, and you can see on the back here I have the MI1 Bluetooth.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
I've got the little Bluetooth guys on there, which I have to update them because they've been a little shoddy, but the update is supposed to be good, so we'll find out. But what I've done is Velcro and a cell phone charger battery, right?
Woo-hoo!
So, and a USB cable. So you plug it in, right? And then you turn it on, and you get a completely portable synthesizer, no cables attached. Powered by battery. So I can sit on my couch and I can make patches on the Ultranova with just SoundLink Mini and this, or even some headphones, whatever I want to do. And
what kind of battery life?
When it's fully charged, I get quite a long time out of it. I get a few hours out of it.
Okay. Long enough for a session, sort of thing.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, well long enough for a session. I mean, you can get quite a lot of time out of it. You want to make sure that you use a 2.5 out. Like, you can get some of the batteries that'll only put out 1.5 amps. You want to have higher than that.
It's got to be one. The way to measure that, I guess, is the ones that are good for charging a iPad.
Yes.
That would,
yeah. And this one, again, I got it off of eBay, like dirt cheap. Like, it was only like maybe $10. And yeah, it has a, what is it? I don't know, 1 amp out, and then there's it's 2.1 amp out, something like that. And I use the 2 on it, and it works great. But yeah, I mean, to me, mobile music production is just, I love it. Like, I have to do it. But we should close up the show because we're getting towards an hour now. So, but I want to thank everyone for coming. I'm going to start off with Gaz. Do you have any closing statements?
Yes. Closing statements is I've just made a little EP that I've
done.
let
me grab the link real quick.
Cool. And it was a little experiment. It's I'm working on a bunch of different projects at the moment, and Flux here introduced me to a group of people and just laid down the gauntlet. I was working on some various projects I had lots and lots of stuff going on in the same week, and I just thought how much fun it would be to add another project into that chaos and try and sort of essentially release a little product within a week of announcing it coming out. But what I did was I asked Banhammers, I asked various people to submit tracks. So we had 5 actually. Flux, I got another one of yours I'd like to work on, but it's they're just backing tracks without bass lines, and then I just recorded improvised bass lines on the tracks, and I tried to work very fast, and I wanted to not listen to the tracks too much. I wanted to capture my first reaction as if I was jamming with the tracks, as if the tracks essentially were a bunch of musicians who I just met in a bar and say, let's just start having a jam, and just I did a little bit of vanity editing in places, but essentially just to tidy up what was essentially my first reaction to it. And I didn't copy and paste. I played the tracks all the way through. And that was really good fun because in a way, when you work in, like, say, with machine or you're working with loops, you're going back over stuff all the time. You know, to actually play a track from beginning to the end and try and keep that as intact as you can. That was kind of the idea. And in a few cases, I thought, because it's just a bass. I mean, a bass guitar and.
Oh, something started acting up.
Okay.
Okay. But yeah, so I have it up here on my thing here, and so yeah, it's Band Hammers, and you see it by Gaz Williams. It's over at Bandcamp, and I'll put the link in the video description.
Thanks. Yeah. It was just really good fun to do that, and
and we all came up with so all the backing tracks that we did for Gaz, we did very very quick. The track that I did for you, I came up with as soon as you contacted me about the project.
Awesome.
I did the music right then and there, and I sent it over to you within less than a day.
Yeah, great. Yeah. So that completely the spirit of what it was. And you know, if I listen back to it now, I could go, oh yeah, you know, from a producer's point of view, listening, you know, I could go, yeah, let's do this, let's
mix
out,
let's add this. Yeah, sure. But as a jam, it's exactly what it is. You know, it was done as a jam, and I loved it for that because I love, you know, pushing things out, getting them done quickly, and there's something to be said for that. So.
Definitely. So you know, so thanks ever so much for that. You know, and I think people have asked me about doing another one, and I definitely want to do another one. So I think I'll plan that for sometime in the new year. I've got a project. I'm going to be launching a project on Kickstarter in January. So
excellent.
It's a very ambitious plan. It's to do with an album and a show and a whole bunch of things. So I would love it once that's ready to go. If I can send you links for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But thanks ever so much for having me on the show. And yeah.
Let me toss off to Mike, padbangers.com.
All right, I got a few closing words. This could take a while. First of all, let me say thank all you guys for being such a great part of the Producers Hangout. Whether it's the web show or the Facebook group, we're now having over 5,000 members, which is pretty awesome. I already wrote this into the group when I came up with the idea. I told the other guys this would be great by the end of the year when we have around 500 people joining the group and having a good conversation going on. Now it's 10 times as big as I thought.
Wow.
And, really, really cool. We have lots of cool postings and topics going on, lots of good discussions. So I want to say thank you for this, and also I want to say thanks to all the admins who put a lot of effort and time into the group management. Let me name a few. Let me tell you a few names here. Aaron Wilfork, of course, Jimmy Wilkerson, Derek Moates, and all the guys who joined the show: Angela, Corey, Bryce, St. Joe, Knox Square, Casey, Mats Lindgren. You guys know who you are. I want to say thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to the next year to have more shows with you guys, and it's always a pleasure to have you here.
Whereabouts in Germany are you, Mike?
What did you say?
Whereabouts in Germany are you?
I'm in the southwest.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you coming over to Musikmesse?
I might do. I haven't been to Messe before, so it's.
When you do, let me know what date. Then we should have a beer or something.
That'd be cool. Nice to meet you, Mike.
Some magic mushrooms. So, to close out, let me just say I have tons of stuff coming for the new year. I'm very, very excited. I've been writing a massive article spanning all of synth DIY, how to get into. I'm taking people who don't know what a soldering iron is, and I'm going to have you building your own circuits and building your own synthesizer gear and sample manglers and all kinds of interesting things. So the first article is going to be going up very soon. It's sponsored by Synthrotech. So, you know, if you don't know who Synthrotech is, get your mind right and go check out their stuff. So, Gaz, you're going to love this circuit right here. This is how to take any guitar pedal and turn it into control voltage. to be able to be controlled by control voltage. So
yeah, man.
there's going to be a circuit in there for everyone. I've got a huge, like I said, the intro alone right now stands at 1,200 words. So it's going to be a detailed. It'll be basically like a free book for you guys.
Yeah.
And we're going to be doing live builds. So
Wow.
build circuits right along with you. We're going to do Google Hangouts where we build and do Q&A. Lots of great things coming from that front. So stay tuned for that over at fluxwithit.com. The Fine Line machine expansion has just released, and that is available at themachinewarehouse.com. So go check that out. I want to say thank you to everybody who's been a part of my life and let me be a part of theirs. So it's been very fun.
Flux, can I get one last plug-in?
Sure.
We're running a competition over at Sonic State to do.
Oh yeah, for the intro, right?
For a new theme tune for Sonic Talk. So it's a good competition, and I think I just really try and encourage people to take part because there's a great bundle of Isotope. It's basically all the good Isotope creative software as a prize. So I think it's worth about, I don't know, it's a lot. It's a good prize. But I think the prize really is having it as the theme tune.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the intro video done by Stephen Blacker. Stephen Blacker is a friend of mine as well. So I just wanted to say that that new intro video that he did is fantastic. So I think everybody should check that out as well.
Yeah. So to take part, you just download the video and then just you have to kind of just go, yeah, I'm writing a Sonic Touch theme, blah blah blah.
Sonic Talk theme.
Yeah. And then Sonic Talk theme. But yeah, so it's just I think it's quite cool, quite a cool thing to take part in because everyone who takes part, even if they're not, if they don't win, the tunes will be on a big playlist. I think it's just going to be quite a nice way of getting to know more people's kind of output. So yeah, that was the last thing. Sorry, just
no worries. So. All right, everyone. And again, go join the Producers Hangout Facebook group. It's the Producers Hangout. So go check that out. Peace.
And a happy